We are back with another crowd control, and this week we're going to talk about a couple campaigns that are just launching and two more that have been running. Ryan, do you want to start things off?
I do, and this one is launching this week. This is going to be a big one. This is Kemet, Rise of the Gods.
Kemet is back.
This is an expansion, kind of based more on the recent, like Blood and Sand Kemet that came out a year or two ago.
Yeah.
But this is bringing in a ton of new content into Kemet, some new ways to play the game, some new tiles, which is very interesting. We have these amethyst and amber tiles, purple and gold almost, that introduce a ton of new ways to play. If you're familiar with Kemet at all, a big part of the game is drafting those tiles to kind of build your own unique set of player powers. So they're introducing two new sets of that, a new unit type called Servants, a new solo mode, a 6th player expansion, and a new way to interact with the game by actually summoning your gods onto the board. So you're going to have god miniatures as well that come on there.
They haven't had god miniatures?
Not that actually come out onto the battlefield. No, this is brand new. So it's Rise of the Gods. It's kind of focused on that. So you're going to be able to interact more. The god you pick is going to have a distinct effect on the game. And of course, those two new tiles, I think, are what people are really drooling over. And you can actually go on GameFound and see right now they've got a preview page up, or it's probably live by the time you're watching this, that show what some of those new powers are. And I'm sure that like diehard Kemet fans are able to already kind of see some of the new synergies and the way that these new tiles are going to allow for some new strategies that are going to be crazy good.
Would you call yourself a diehard Kemet fan?
I would definitely not call myself a diehard Kemet fan. Not at all.
I've never played Kemet.
I'm not the biggest direct conflict kind of guy. I mean, Kemet is like the classic like troops on a map style game. Where you've got these armies moving around. It's some area control and things like that. So I enjoy it. What I enjoy most about Kemet is that building of your own unique strategy, your own unique scoring, like all that, those tiles that you're drafting, there's limited numbers. So like you're the only one that has that particular combination. And so I don't know if these are going to, like when you set up the game, if you're replacing, because the campaign is not out yet. So I don't know if you're replacing or adding these two extras. So it'll be interesting to see. So yeah. That's going to be, I think, a big one this week.
Well, the next one that's launching, we don't have as many details on this one. They don't have the campaign page up as of recording, and that is Brink. This is from Ivy Games or Ivy Studios. Yeah. This is a sort of spiritual successor to Moonrakers. It is set in the Moonrakers universe. If you've ever seen Moonrakers, I actually think if I had to pick one of their games that's my favorite, I'd probably pick Moonrakers. I
enjoy Moonrakers.
It is a very interesting game with an interesting take on its mechanics. This one is a worker placement game, and it is their first worker placement games. Of all the games they've done, they haven't done worker placement yet, and it looks to be an evolving worker placement game. There are a couple of videos out there. Dice Tower did a live play, so if you want to take a look at it played, you can watch that. But it looks like in the vein of like a Dwellings of Eldervale.
Yeah.
It looked like there are tiles that are going out on the board over time, which will be the spaces that you go.
It gave me Whistle Mountain vibes because you're putting your ships out onto this worker placement grid, and they're different sizes, and you're getting to activate actions based on physically where they're touching. And as you explore the map out, you're gonna add, you're gonna find more places. That's just how I felt. Like that whole part of Whistle Mountain where you're building the tiles, whatever. But this is more about the actual act of like placing near these things to like gather resources and things like that.
That's an interesting thing. Both of those are Luke Laurie games. So hopefully they've taken a page out of Luke Laurie's book for inspiration for this game because we're big fans of
Except you're going to find something in this game that you're never going to find in any Luke Laurie game probably, and that is negotiation. Because like Moonrakers,
that's in almost all of their games. Ivy Studios likes a lot of player-to-player interaction in some way, shape, or form, whether it's like getting into each other's heads. What was that game? Veiled Fate. Veil of Fate. Well, even Moonrakers has some of that,
has some
for sure.
Fierce negotiation, and this takes it to the next level because only certain things are going to score every round, and you're voting on what's going to score. And you're, trading and wheeling and dealing and negotiating, and you're able to give people things or say, well, I'll pat your back if you pat my back. And you could add like riders to some of the bills to kind of lean people into saying like, well, if we score this, then also this, and you want this, and I want the scoring. So that seems to be honestly the meat of the game.
Yeah, they do like those sorts of aspects to the game for sure. But that's Brink, and it's launching this week as well. Take a look at it. It's, of course, beautiful looking.
Oh,
and
like all their games. Their graphic design is
graphic design is on point. Their
masterclass,
production is over the top. So
in a good way.
If you like, in a good way. If you like those sorts of things in their games already, I'm sure you already know about this campaign.
Yeah, I think these are going to be both two huge launches this week. But let's talk about some things that are already launching that we think are worth mentioning.
Yeah.
One is Hexplore, the Mountains of Godai. If you've been following Hexplore, this is a sandboxy game, almost like an RPG. In fact, one of the big draws to Hexplore is the in-depth character creation that you
the hero building, right?
Yeah, the hero building is crazy. Like you're choosing from all these different things to build out your hero. And if you've ever seen this game, this looks like the game people talk about when they talk about adventure games. Like it is this sprawling map of hexes with a ton of locations to explore, a ton of cards out, and every volume of the game has given you different goals, different mechanics, different enemies to fight, and Mountains of Godai is no exception. First of all, there's 2 scenarios in the box, so you can play either one, or they say you could play both together, and it's kind of tower defense.
Yeah, it brings,
which is interesting.
It brings tower defense to the equation. So I've never played. You played the original Hexplore a long time ago,
way back
right?
in the day. Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know how that affects things, but tower defense is front and center in their description on their campaign page, and their campaign, by the way, has done quite well.
Oh, it's
up in the $300,000 range. They've got a lot of fans, and if you're not a fan, you can actually, if you have some money sitting around, you can get the whole thing, all the volumes of the games in this cool deluxe box
the thing.
set.
Deluxe boxes, they look really cool. I'm a sucker for these deluxe boxes. I am.
He zeroed in on it immediately.
I did. When they're on the shelf, they look like big tomes, and like there's a big box for all the components. I mean, they look solid, and the fact that you can just like grab one and play and have a different experience. This one, the tower defense, is pretty cool. Like there's like these siege engines that are sieging the world, and they will destroy the world if they're not stopped. It's a cool idea.
So if you want to stop them from destroying the world and get all the rest of Explore It, it's going to cost you about $559.
But that's a lot of. I mean,
it is a lot of
content. Look at these photos and just see the game laid out on the table. It is an expansive sandbox.
Well, we didn't take a look. Maybe we will before we edit this to see how many people have backed at that level, because at a certain point, some of these games that have been around for a while and they keep adding, you'd think that a lot of the people already have them. Who is it that's going, I've never heard of this, but it looks fantastic. I'll want it all.
It always has a new reach. So
that's true.
I think that one is going to continue. That's fairly recently launched, so I think that's going to continue to grow as well.
Another one that's on Kickstarter right now is called Rise of the Wastelands. I wanted to bring this up because it crossed my attention. I've seen a couple videos. I haven't watched them thoroughly. This is a 4X game.
A streamlined 4X game.
Streamlined 4X game. But I don't know. It's not like super duper streamlined.
It's not like Last Light played in an hour.
No, I don't think it's that sort of streamlined. Right. This looks like a pretty robust 4X set in a post-apocalyptic wasteland.
Which is the best setting for a 4X game.
It is a cool setting. You might say, oh, Wasteland's overused these days. I don't generally get tired of post-apocalyptic wastelands. The thing I wanted to point out about this, first of all, the game looks, like I said, really robust. You've got this board map. It looks like it's going to be built because it's not just a square board. So it looks like there's some variability there. And the player boards look like everything a 4X fan would want. There's all these pieces on your player board. They're all going to go out there. There's going to be some interaction, sort of like probably a Terra Mystica sort of vibe in terms of like, okay, I'm opening things up, or Eclipse, or any of those types of games. But what I wanted to highlight, and this is more specific to the campaign, less about the game, their base game comes with wooden pieces. Their other one has plastic miniatures, and you're thinking, like, oh, well, I bet the plastic miniatures are awesome. That's the version to get. I gotta say, if I were to get this game, which I don't think I'm going to, but if I were...
I don't know if it's... 4X is not...
4X is not my bag.
That's more my bag, honestly. I probably should have been talking about this one.
But I like the wooden pieces.
You're not alone in that. I've actually played a lot of games with people that are like, I wish the miniatures were just wooden pieces.
Well, these ones in particular are really, really nice. The wood is shaped and printed on with some very basic painting and printing on it, but it just looks cooler, and it actually has a cooler, more interesting vibe to me than just more plastic miniatures. I have some criticism, though.
Oh, boy.
If you're listening, you Rise of the Wasteland publisher, I can't remember your name, I'm sorry. Get a new logo.
Yeah,
Get
I
a new
don't-
logo.
I
The
don't
box.
love. If I had not scrolled the page and gone, oh, this looks really interesting. If I'd seen
The
just
game
the
itself looks
box
great.
cover, I might not have tuned in.
I would agree. We're saying this to help.
It's a criticism out of love.
Yeah, we're not bashing it. The game looks great, but boy, the box art and the box logo in particular could rise, if no pun intended, to meet the game itself. But anyway, take a look for that one. Those are the 4 games we wanted to talk about this week.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's some other campaigns. We missed
Let
campaigns.
us know down in the
There's
comments.
so many
There's too many to
campaigns.
cover.
We missed them. So do let us know down in the comments if there's a campaign out there you're like, hey, cover this next week. You guys have missed it for 2 weeks running. Until next time, though, make sure everyone has fun at the table, and we'll see you then.